Hey there, it's Kat, and this is Brews and Reviews. So we're back for part 2 of my February wrap-up. I must first apologise for looking like a hot mess. I'm sick, but you know, I'm still filming for you guys, so there's that. So I'm just going to kick off right where I finished off last time and tell you about the rest of the books that I read in February. So the first book that I want to talk about in this wrap-up is Firewall by Andy McNabb. So this is the third book in the Nick Stone series, and Nick Stone is a guy who used to be in the SAS and now does sort of deniable ops projects. And this book starts off with him in Russia trying to kidnap a dude, then that goes a bit wrong. Then he ends up on a different job completely, and I don't want to go into it too much because really the fun part about these is that not actually that much happens, but a lot of things happen, and most of the things that happen are Nick Stone getting the shit beaten out of him and like just sort of like going along with it. Like sometimes you need to roll around on the floor in piss while being punched a lot to get the job done. It sounds gross. I know that sounds gross, but these things really impress me because it's like actually that is what people sometimes have to do to get these sort of horrible jobs done. And yeah, I found these Nick Stone books really realistic in terms of how these things are dealt with, and the operations as they go are also incredibly interesting, so I'm really enjoying them. Really enjoyed this book, actually much more than the previous one, because the second book in the series had a bit of like a love story with it. I was perfectly fine with that little love story. I just enjoyed going on this mission with Nick and just how it went. Yeah, it was really cool. I really liked it. So for the next books, I'm going to go slightly out of order in which I read them. I picked up Every Heart a Doorway by Shannon Maguire and then In an Absent Dream by Shannon Maguire. I decided to reread Every Heart a Doorway, which is the first really Cooper, because that one I really loved, and so I picked up the cat because he is being a little monster and climbing all over the tripod. Aren't you, little man? Aren't you? He wants to go outside, but it's raining, so he can't. And he just keeps going outside and going, oh, I don't like it, I'll come back in. And then he goes and stands by the door like, can you let me out again? So I picked up Every Heart a Doorway, which is the first book in the Wayward Children series, and I really enjoyed that book. I honestly really felt for Nancy, and I really enjoyed Nancy's world, so I really wanted to go back there. And it was surprising to me that I'd randomly chosen to go back there and then found Lundy, the main character of In an Absent Dream, there, because I totally hadn't made that connection when I'd read the synopsis of In an Absent Dream. And you know what? I loved In an Absent Dream as well. So in Every Heart a Doorway, we follow a bunch of children who have gone through portal worlds and found themselves in the real world. And they go to this home for wayward children, which is basically a home for people who really want to get back to their portal worlds and still like live in hope that they can get back there. In an Absent Dream, we follow Lundy, who is in Every Heart a Doorway. So this is like a prequel book, and this is her story when she went into a portal world, and she goes into the Goblin Market, which is a portal world that is based on rules and everything being fair. So it's really interesting. I'm fascinated by that world. I think it would be so intriguing to go into, and I tend to like these books more when I can see a world that I would actually want to go into. The third book did not gel with me properly because Candyland is not really my bag, but things with like rules and like a high logic sort of system works really well for me, so I was like, yes, I like this world and I liked how everything went. Next up, I started my big train of thrillers, and this is actually before Thrillerathon. I just picked this one up because it's been on my shelf for ages and I wanted to read it, and that is Never Knowing by Chevy Stevens. I've read one book by her before and I kind of was like, meh, it was alright, the writing wasn't great. The writing in this one was much better actually. I will say that she's definitely improved from that first book that I read. This book follows our main character who was adopted and then later finds out that her birth father is a serial killer and that she's actually the product of her mum being raped by him and escaping. And the whole drama of this book comes about, Cooper, could you not? Really? You're not playing all day and then you choose to play when I start filming. And the drama of this book comes about when he finds out that he has a daughter. He starts phoning her and getting in touch with her, and just like weird shit happens and he's creepy, and I don't know, I just really enjoyed this book. I thought it was like weird It was weird. Yeah, it was weird, but I enjoyed it all the same. And if you like that sort of ominous, I'm watching you stalker type serial killer kind of fiction, then this is good for you, I guess. Next up were the books that I read for Thrillerathon. So I decided to take part in Thrillerathon because, like I was just saying, I really wanted to read more thrillers because I've been sort of out of that loop for a while. So this just seemed like the best time to just get stuck in there and start with thrillers. So the first book that I read for Thrillerathon was You by Caroline Kepnes. And I sort of swore that I would never read this book because I thought, like, I hate stalkers, they're so creepy. Yeah, like proper stalking where this person's sole focus is that other person. Like, it's so creepy. You is about a guy who comes into contact with this girl and basically becomes obsessed with her and then starts following her around and taking action in her life, let's just say. It's also written in second person, so it's really, really creepy, and I think I gave it a 3 out of 5 stars, and that's mostly because the main female character, Beck, you kind of want to like her because you're thinking, oh god, this poor woman is being stalked by this real creeper. But my god, she's the worst. Like, I wanted her to die. Like, the whole way through, I'm like, please die. Please, can he just kill her now? Because she was the worst. She was a horrible excuse for a human being. She was horrible. I hated her. She was so annoying. If he was a normal bloke, I'd still have wanted him to kill her. But I mean, as it was, he's a complete psychopath. So they were like made for each other. Then I picked up The Fifth Horseman by James Patterson. This actually wasn't on my Thrillerathon TBR, but it kind of counted for Revisit an Author challenge, so I went with it anyway. This is the 5th book in the Women's Murder Club series, and yeah, it was okay. This one takes place partly in a courtroom and partly in a hospital, because people are getting murdered in a hospital. And there's also a malpractice trial going on, suing that hospital, completely unconnected, and then obviously maybe connected. You know, I went into this book and when I found out it was in a trial setting, I was a little bit disappointed because I really didn't like the 4th book in this series because it was in a trial. The whole thing was in a trial and I didn't go there for it to be in a trial. Whereas in this book, it was more half and half split, and because the two things were connected and there was still different things going on, I was way more interested in this because there's also a second case going on, and I thought that was way more interesting. The main characters are still like dull as dishwater, like carbon cliches, and terrible, but like if you're interested in like turning your brain off and reading like a really cheap crime thriller, then pick up these little Women's Murder Club books. Then I went on holiday, and the books that I took with me were all either audiobooks or Kindle books, and the first one I picked up was In a Cottage in a Wood, and that was by Cass Green. So I picked up this book because Nicole from A Beautiful Chaos of Books said she really loved it. I thought it was great, and I thought it was great. It was really enjoyable. It was totally not what I was expecting it to be. It starts off with a woman walking home from a one-night stand, going across the bridge, and then she sees this woman about to jump off a bridge. She tries to sort of talk to her a little bit, and then the woman just jumps anyway. After witnessing this woman commit suicide, the main character then receives a house from the woman who jumped off a bridge. It's not, let's say, the nicest of houses. Creepy shit happens in this house. And I'm not going to say anything else, because the fact that I didn't know what I was going into when I picked up that book was really a key part of me really liking this book, I think. So definitely check that one out. It's well worth it. The next book that I picked up was The Hunting Party by Lucy Foley. The basic premise of this book is that it's like a bunch of friends go to Scotland for New Year, and then it starts snowing, and then somebody has been murdered. Dun dun dun. Yep, that's basically all there is to this book. It jumps back and forth between the present timeline when they've discovered the body and the previous few nights when various things happen. You go between quite a few different main characters' perspectives and you start to see it building up, and like you're like, I can see this tension, I know who's gonna get murdered, I know who's done that, I know who that is. And this is the main failing of this book, is that it was really predictable. I sat there and predicted pretty much everything that happened. I was like, this person killed that person. They did it because of this. Wow, I was right. What? So you might think that I didn't enjoy that book, but I did. It was alright. I gave it a 3 out of 5 stars, because while I sat there and thought, yeah, I know what's going to happen, and I know who the killer is and all that, and I know who the murder victim is, because you actually don't find that out until the end. I don't know, there was something about the cast of pretty much really unlikable characters all getting together that I just kind of enjoyed. And I always like that desolate cabin away from people, that isolation type thing is a trope that I clearly enjoy, so yeah, it was alright. Next book that I picked up was Girl Number 1 by Jane Holland. This book follows a main character who's jogging in the woods and then finds a murdered body with the number 3 on her forehead. When she goes to tell someone, they're like, yeah, you're mental, love. They go back to look at where it is and they find that there's nothing there. The reason that they think that she's mental is because when she was a little girl, that's where her mother was murdered. The main character in this book seemed to care more about her love life than she cared about finding, you know, her mother's killer. And I found that, or like, not even, if she wasn't even bothered about finding her mother's killer, because, you know, she's not a policewoman, she can't necessarily do that. But she's like, not bothered about the guy that's clearly like messing with her and stalking her and like leaving notes on her window and things like that. Like, I think I would be bothered by that, wouldn't you? I'm not going to go be like, oh, that guy that I really like, I'm going to go date him. Oh, I'm going to date this other guy, I really like him. Oh, dating. Like, no, love, no. Let's try not to get murdered, and you know. Obviously I didn't enjoy that. One thing I randomly did enjoy was that she works as a PE teacher, and I don't know, it's just a normal job to have, and I like it when people have normal jobs rather than just like, I'm a writer. Like, I mean, I want to be a writer, but like, we all have to have normal jobs before we get there. Not everyone's like the editor of 10 magazines. You know, it doesn't work that way. So yeah, I like it when people have like really normal jobs that people have. Anyway, yeah, I didn't really enjoy that book. The end was like meh. All of it was like meh. And yeah. Then I read the only physical book I took on holiday with me, and that was From Potter's Field by Patricia Cornwell, because I've been saying I wanted to read this book for ages, and I finally have. So it was a bit weird that 2 of these books that I took to Lanzarote with me were set in Christmas time and in the snow, but you know, whatever. This one was set in the snow, and it has the resolution to the Temple Galt sort of arc of the Scarpetta series, and it was a good resolution for it, to be honest. He's sort of built up as this horrible serial killer, and you know, he's just a nasty guy, and he's sort of been looming over the past 3 books, and it's nice to finally have a resolution to that. And there were some really cool scenes. I really liked the climax of this book, as well as some of the other things that were going on. So yeah, definitely rate this one. It was really fun. And the last book that I finished for Thrillerathon, actually I managed to finish the day after Thrillerathon, but you know, I started it, I picked it up because of Thrillerathon, so it still counts for me. I was like, yeah, it still counts. So that book was 13 by Steve Kavanaugh. I know quite a few people have been talking about this book recently. And it's about what is called the murder trial of the century, because a famous actor wife and his chief of staff have been found murdered, and he has been accused of killing them. The only thing is, he is not the killer. The killer is in the jury. So madness ensues. I really liked how this was written. This is again like a courtroom thriller, and weirdly, if these are done right, I really enjoy them. If they're done wrong, I really don't. The main character, Eddie Flynn, is a former conman turned lawyer, and it is really interesting to see the ways that he comes up with to try and convince the jury that his client is innocent. It's also really interesting that you have the perspective of the serial killer just, you know, sat there on the jury doing like conniving, plotting things, which is super creepy. I mean, he is fucked up. And I'm not going to say any more about this book because it's quite interesting to read how fucked up this guy is. So, enjoy! The next book that I picked up was The Umbrella Academy Volume 1 by Gerard Way and Gabriel Barr. So, I picked this book up because I wanted to watch the TV series. Everyone is watching this TV series, everyone's saying how amazing it is. So, I was like, I'll read it and then watch it and see. I really enjoyed this first graphic novel. I thought it was really good. It took me a little bit of time to get used to the art style because it's not really the typical art style that I tend to gravitate towards. Also, I mean, it's weird, isn't it? It's just weird. Another thing, randomly, about this is that I find it really hard to remember any of the characters' names apart from Vanya and Klaus. Like, I don't know what the rest of them are called. I just know them by number. How sad is that? I feel like the biggest problem with this Volume 1 is that it just didn't go into enough depth for my liking, and you know, that's not a horrendous fault. It's just something that I think could have been done a bit better. So apart from that, I really enjoyed it. I really liked the storyline, and I liked how like quirky everything was. I liked the time traveling-ness of it. I enjoyed all of that. So yeah, definitely interested in picking up the next one. And the last book that I picked up in February is To Kill a Kingdom by Alexandra Christo. So I've had this one on my Audible shelf for quite a long time, and I picked it up when it was like $1.99, so because I'd heard a lot of people talking about it, and I thought, you know what, It actually won a poll on my Twitter. Sometimes this is something I'm going to be doing quite a bit from now on, I think. If I'm not sure which audiobook to pick up next, I'm sort of asking you guys what you would like me to read from a choice of 3. And this one won, so I picked it up. I had heard that this was kind of a Little Mermaid retelling, but they're not mermaids, they're sirens. And I wasn't really sure what to think about that, but I ended up really enjoying it, to be honest. I really liked how creepy sirens could be, and I actually liked the crew. And I liked the prince. I mean, the characters are a little bit cardboard, like they're a bit cardboard cut out, but I kind of don't care. I enjoyed it, and like the climax of this book actually felt like a huge culmination of all the events, and it felt a bit like a war, and I was like, yeah, okay, yeah, I'm in for that. I'll take it. It felt like a worthwhile end to it. So yeah, I didn't expect to enjoy this book about like sirens and murder maids, as we shall call them instead of mermaids. I didn't expect to enjoy it. I just thought it was going to be like a 3-star YA read for me, and I enjoyed it. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. I thought it was like a nice little stopgap for the next thing I was reading, so yeah, definitely worth giving a go. If you like any sort of siren sort of ship-based adventure with like royals and that sort of thing, yeah, give it a go. Doesn't hurt if you like The Little Mermaid as well. So there we have it. Those are all the books that I read throughout February. If you've watched part 1 and then you've watched part 2, you'll know that I read a lot of books, and wow, why are you still here? Like, I've been talking for ages. So if you liked any of the books that I talked about in this wrap-up, please leave a comment down below. Let me know what your thoughts were on them. If you liked this video, please leave a like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!